And then if they just gave milk chocolate in a dose of about 4 of these, the effect then disappeared as well. So how about those dark chocolate converts? We're leaning more? Okay. And our study, we didn't see an effect with the oxidation, antioxidant effect, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. And then these are the last few studies that have been done that have looked at oxidation. And by the way, they look at a number of different measures. I'm just, in general, giving you a synopsis of those. And the first two, in healthy subjects, not really an effect. But what was interesting with Morceau, they actually were able to improve the good cholesterol up 11%. But they didn't see an antioxidant effect. And they gave 75 grams, or close to 2 of these, a day for 3 weeks. And then what's interesting with Herman and Flammer, these are really situations where there's increased risk for heart disease. So in smokers, the one dose, only 40 grams, which would be one bar, did have an antioxidant effect. And these heart transplant recipient subjects, this is interesting because of this, the heart that they have that's transplanted, their blood vessels have an accelerated form of atherosclerosis, or that clogging process. So they're really at risk. And so this is remarkable that just 1 bar would have an antioxidant effect in this patient population. And then Talbert, his study, looked at people with mild hypertension, and they gave a very small dose, probably just a quarter of a bar, 6.3 grams a day for 18 weeks, and didn't see an effect with that. Okay, how about the effect of chocolate on platelet function? You know, this is actually what your platelets look like after you eat chocolate. Okay, and then these are the studies that we have to date, and I'll preface all of these studies. In this my presentation today, I'm only looking at the chocolate studies. There have been a number of other studies that have used cocoa beverages, flavanol-rich cocoa beverages, and giving just one dose or over a few days, and they too have seen a lot of the benefits that I'm showing you today. So that's a different presentation. But anyway, here, all these studies, even just, and most of these have all just been 1 dose, so no long-term studies have been done. But just 1 dose, as low as 25 grams up to 100 grams in either healthy adults or ones that have high risk for heart disease, such as the smokers or these heart transplant recipients, all had benefit as far as platelet function, that you'll see less clotting, less stickiness, and that's good as far as the heart. How about the effect of chocolate on blood pressure? Well, we have this slide and the next slide, and again, just to orient you, the reference on the left, the type of chocolate, the model, and the blood pressure lowering effect. So if there is an effect, you'll see the plus sign, and if not, you'll see the negative sign. And we see a number of the studies that have been done in healthy adults, including ours, where we gave 46 grams a day for 2 weeks, which is approximately this size. And RAIN 2, the first study, was about a handful of those chocolate baking bits, which is dark chocolate, by the way. And there was no effect either acutely or long-term with our study. But there have been 2 of these studies that looked at people who have mild hypertension. And in both cases, there was a blood pressure lowering effect that we did see, both systolic and diastolic. And then in these last set of studies, we're seeing many more studies, well-designed and longer term with larger sample sizes, which is good. We see a positive effect as well in lowering blood pressure. In fact, this first study used milk chocolate, and remember that only has about 2 to 3 times the amount of cocoa flavanols that the dark chocolate is, but and that they gave a lot of chocolate. That would have been 2 of these a day for 2 weeks. And then you'll also see I have the listing of the amount of flavanols. I think the other striking part of all these studies is that people are using different types of chocolate with different amount of flavanols, different doses, one dose, doses over 2 weeks. So it would be really nice to have studies that are standardized. In other words, much like the work we have with the omega-3 fatty acids that I've been involved in, that they have a standard product, so that for all the studies they should use a standard product that we know the amount of flavanols in and can conduct these studies and see the cause and effect. So hopefully that will be forthcoming. But this is interesting too with the study by Talbert in 2007. Now they only gave that 6.3 grams. Remember, it didn't have an effect on oxidation, but in these older age individuals, 56 to 73 years, with mild hypertension, they only gave a quarter, a very small amount a day for 15 days and did see a blood pressure lowering effect. And then the last 2 studies, the adults in the Faraday study in 2008 were healthy overweight subjects, so they did see a lowering effect, as well as in healthy females at a higher dose for 15 days. So those are the studies with blood pressure. And I just wanted to highlight the one study here by Grassi in 2005, where they looked at giving white chocolate or dark chocolate in 20 healthy subjects. And here you can see the dark chocolate group is on the left-hand side, so before is here, and after the dark chocolate consumption for 15 days. And you can see that the systolic blood pressure came down close to about 10 points, as well as the diastolic pressure coming down about 4 to 5 points. And then the white chocolate group is on this side, so before and after. So where's my white chocolate, the one that liked white chocolate? So I don't know, what do you think? You think you'll be doing better with that blood pressure with dark chocolate versus the white chocolate? Okay, now I have to ask you a question at this point. With the holiday coming up next week, is it possible to offset a holiday meal high in fat and calories with a chocolate cake dessert? The answer is no, you're correct. This is actually a real question that a journalist asked me that was writing a story on chocolate and referring to our study, and I know they were hoping I would say yes, but I said no. So let's now move to what are the effects of chocolate on vascular health and endothelial function. Well, we can measure endothelial function using this device here. And actually, it's a snapshot of your vascular health. So in this case, we can use this high-resolution ultrasound using the brachial artery, the artery in your arm, which is great because it's non-invasive. There's no needles. It's just a transducer over the actual artery itself. And it actually correlates well with what's happening in the arteries of your heart. And here's an actual tracing and a close-up here of the brachial artery, and you can see blood flow at the bottom. And this is the actual artery here, and we can actually measure the diameter where the arrows are of that artery. So the wider it is, the more blood flow there is going through that artery. And we can measure that at rest, and then we can also induce a situation where we can get that nitric oxide to come out and make the blood flow increased. And what we do, we just put a blood pressure cuff on the lower arm for several minutes, and then when we let it go, there's a spontaneous mechanism to increase blood flow.